Okay, so I get asked this a lot. Here's how it all starts. Basically, it kind of starts on January 6th, 2021, the day of the United States Capitol insurrection. My father decides to go. I decide to quit working for him. My father sells art. I helped him sell it online, and that was just the last straw for me. I didn't like the disrespect, basically. So I'm working at a pizza restaurant in the summer of 2022. It's part-time. I love the work, but I need more hours at another job nearby. So I apply at the very nearby Kroger or King Soopers grocery store. There's a position overnight available to stock cans. It seems like a win-win. I've already worked for Kroger. In the red hot hiring summer months of summer 22, it actually takes King Soopers 11 weeks for the time I start applying to the time I'm actually doing my training and starting my first day. This creates a cash flow issue, and I do everything you can imagine to supplement any income. I had some people come stay with me to try out a roommate situation. I was working with the Colorado Rental Assistance Program. That becomes a technical glitch with the leasing office. It was kind of like a nightmare, never ending early in the summer and just propelling because it took so long to work at King Soopers. The reason for that was people with jobs at King Soopers already, the HR staff, supervisors, etc., were taking summer vacations. That was kind of the holdup. Here's the situation. After so long of starting Kroger, it just kind of comes out. I won't make enough cash. I'm behind on the rent. I had been laid off in the spring. I'm leaving out some minor details, but on January 6th, I kind of basically knew with my father doing that and the whole faith of the entire family kind of like not seeing it being a big deal, I just had a very sinking feeling thinking, I'm going to try and fight and work as much as I can, but I'm probably going to lose my apartment. Here's my apartment. Here's the closet, and here's the rest of it. It's a basic studio built in the 1980s in South Denver. The rent was $1,200 a month. For Denver, that's not unusual. It was a very modest place. There's much more expensive places. I moved in here in November 2019. By September 2022, I have called a friend in North Carolina, someone I was friends with for 6 years, and he says, hey, why don't you just come back to High Point, North Carolina, close to where I used to live. I knew the friend. He said, I'll have a job waiting on you when you get here. You can stay with me. Seems like a very simple solution. What I want to say about arriving to this apartment right around Thanksgiving 2019 and having almost the entire time there during the pandemic, it felt like I worked myself a lot harder for a promotion that never really came into effect because I never really got to, get trained, explore Dish World Headquarters, see opportunities there, really beyond working from home. And then I was at home a lot because of COVID, and I felt like with that and January 6th, stopping work with my dad, it just felt like I never really got to explore Denver the way I thought I was working for the year before. So it was always like, I'll miss the apartment. I miss the solace and the ability to have a place. Absolutely. But I also remember feeling like I was trapped there. Now I would love to be trapped back in my apartment sometimes. One significant thing in my life, and kind of paralleling, I've noticed with my father in the early 90s when he almost decided to quit painting and then decided, he says, to paint things that matter. I kind of felt an outlet for marketing and branding, personal branding, and I just kind of went into overdrive and I decided, my dad went to January 6th. I'm going to reevaluate everything. So I turned 34 that 2021 in April. I just call myself remastered. When I turned 35, call myself refined, and this year I'm 36. I call myself Southern Prince just to kind of give me a little bit of fairy tale, fantasy, glamour, a little bit of something in my spirit to just kind of bounce. And next year, if I live to be 37, I'm going to be rock solid. So it just kind of have themes. It helps me a lot. I really enjoyed that whole process at the apartment. One other piece of information or way I try to save my apartment and avoid having to relocate from Denver is I actually tried to sell some art my father had given me. Side note, here's a little bit more about what I mean by that. Just 4 days after my 1 year anniversary of becoming chronically homeless, or homeless for more than 1 year, it is announced that the Parkersburg Art Center will have a show curated by Jose Rizzo, who is one of my father's top art clients. Here's a picture of my father and Jose looking like they're about to enjoy a delicious, very big meal. Anyway, other information, and just to cut to the chase, I had reached out to Jose a couple months before I went homeless, or actually in June of 2022. I was working 2 jobs and trying everything to avoid eviction, and I was ready and prepared to unload some artwork and sell it to him, just so I could avoid being homeless. He declined the offer, and then this is the message he sent. This is the very last communication I have with Jose Rizzo. As you can tell, my life is at stake and he is still concerned with what he wants. So that is my dad's top art client. The number 2 is not much different. To learn more about the fabulous lifestyle led by Jose Rizzo, just go here, or just tell a friend and family and everyone you know to never, ever, ever go here again. Oh, and I almost forgot. What happened to the artwork? I donated it to the train station close to Denver University. And this is a product that was always valuable to Jose Rizzo and may have had potential value in the future, but because I'm homeless, it just had to go to a good home to anyone who picked it up at the train station. Let me show you what they meant by that. We had already at this point had January 6th over for, 6 months, and I contacted some of his top clients. They declined to buy the art, so I take it to the Colorado train station and I leave a note there, and that's that. It's only like the very next day, and there I am at Union Station, feeling good, feeling positive, and only feeling more so when I see an emblem on the Greyhound of the symbol from my hometown, Mount Airy. It has Pilot Mountain nearby, and I just kind of feel like this is a good omen. I'm doing the right thing. I'm not really stressed. And I get to the Atlanta Greyhound station, and that's when things start to change. Where this story really begins as a homeless story, this is the first picture of me at the Atlanta Greyhound station, the first picture of me homeless. I last heard from my friend in High Point around the Chattanooga stop. I actually never hear from him again. I don't know the reason why I was ghosted on. I know that he had a stroke in the past. We'll never know. I just know that I've got to figure out somewhere to survive besides the Atlanta Greyhound station. I'm there for, a while, over a day, before I find somebody. I'm scrambling to find someone I know, kind of on this bus itinerary. Where can I go since I'm not hearing from my friend anymore? It's very terrifying. The Atlanta Greyhound station is where hell starts. It's awful. It's 1,000,000 years old. And my friend Harold, that I met in 2018 on a supply run for my dad, says, just come on, I'll take you to my place in Wilkesboro. So I'm transported there, and just in a matter of days from big old metropolitan Denver, it's a real rush of emotions and a journey, just kind of reliving the experience, putting this video together. But in just a matter of days, I'm no longer going to High Point where I thought I was and feeling good about that, seeing my friend I hadn't seen in a while. I'm seeing Harold, who I saw on a supply run once. Don't know him that well, but I'm definitely way back in the country. This is the home place of Senator Robert C. Byrd, and where my father and artist Ward Nichols have kind of started their art careers. It is a place that is different than High Point, not where I was expecting to go, and I've been homeless before. I already kind of know it's like a figure it out as you get there kind of game, and I don't know what I'll be doing next, but this is how it starts, and here's the rest of probably everything you need to know or want to know how things have been since then. As you can kind of gather from these pictures, on the outside, I'm kind of having a hillbilly's paradise, and I have been cooped up in that Denver apartment for COVID for like forever. On the inside, mostly, I'm kind of freaking out, kind of going, all right, so how do I get my bearings from here? This was unexpected. Whatever happened to my friend, what am I going to really do now? I call my brother, Andrew, who's in Charlotte, and I say, why don't we get everybody together and just go to Hawaii? My mom had moved back from Switzerland, and I felt like, I need a home and we need to see each other. She's probably got the money now. I mean, for some reason to me, it just feels like it could work. I hadn't seen her. It just kind of felt like, well, since we can't think of what to do, or I can't, maybe she'll want to go on vacation. She sure went on a lot of those before. My brother is kind of supportive of this idea at first, and then he isn't. And I'm just going to go into the rest of the video I prepared. This is kind of, though, how it all started. The only other piece of information you should know, there isn't much to do at Harold's. I have lived in North Carolina for 25 years and then West Virginia for the next 8. I do know where I'm at, but I'm kind of like supplanted in my dad's universe. although we're not talking because of January 6th, and I already knew when I couldn't hear from my friend in Chattanooga that my family was not going to be at all coming to my aid. I mean, I was in touch with my brother, but he was just kind of like, what do you want me to do about it? I was like, how about Hawaii? He was like, that sounds like a plan, but he didn't really, he was supportive, but not like going to do anything. And there wasn't much to do except kind of stay out of the way of Harold's other house guests, I guess. They were men finding their way. One of them was particularly, I would say, aggressive. He just didn't seem to like there being another person there. So one night I actually am fleeing to no fault of my own. He just didn't want someone there. Harold's an older Vietnam vet, and that man was a psycho. He chased me with nunchucks, and I've been surviving ever since. Basically, my plan after surviving that night was to get to Elon University, where I graduated. I felt it was the only home I had left. Here's the rest of the story. So the rest of the story kind of goes like this. Right before I explained the situation with art clients, I explained I was chased out by nunchucks. So I meet someone who has some of my belongings behind a dumpster at a dollar store, and they give me my belongings and tell me to call my family, which I elaborate later on in a future video. But I'm literally carrying a suitcase and everything I can, backpack, etc. And I'm walking down US 421 towards the direction of Elon University. I do get a ride from someone who just offers me a ride, and we have a great conversation. Then I end up at my high school exit. They were going in that direction, and I stop at my high school. During this time, I grab some good sweet tea and some fried chicken from Bojangles, not available in Denver. And I'm really just kind of like waiting and evaluating. I'm staying outside a night or two at the grocery store nearby. And then I have a friend who tells me he's going to come get me from Tennessee. He actually never tells me that he changed his plans when someone immediately became ill and had to go to the hospital. But I spent a couple nights there trying to figure out what I'm going to do, or if there's a better way to get to Elon University. This is an incredibly weird, reflective time where I'm at my high school for the first time since I graduated over half my lifetime ago, never expecting to be here, still wondering what happened to my friend when I was supposed to see him from, going to High Point. But I end up being at the grocery store, and police come by, and eventually they are just kind of fed up with me staying there, not breaking the law, not having any warrants, not having any drugs, but just kind of being stationary. And I'm just still also waiting for my friend from Tennessee, also trying to figure out the next best plan. Eventually it does come down to I need to leave, so I do contact my best friend, my prom date, one of my longest running relationships, and her mother picks me up. I'm staying with her mother, and this is someone that I had a great relationship with in the past. Summarize an hour by hour, just in a couple of days sort of matter. Basically, she is convinced that the best thing for me to do is to go to the homeless shelter in Winston-Salem, the city of my birth. So I do we get to the area in East Winston, a very dangerous area, a section of town, and she cannot find the homeless shelter. There's construction, her GPS can't reroute her. So I just say, let me grab my stuff and I'll get out. Well, I do grab my stuff and get out. She mashes on the gas, and then I feel completely abandoned. And I'm like, this is someone I went on vacation with, have given 1,000 hugs to, never see her again. It's very hurtful. The most hurtful thing that's ever happened, even still, like 509 days homeless now, until I got kidnapped and discover everything my dad's up to. But I actually spend the night I go to the homeless shelter in Winston-Salem. They're actually full. I do a COVID test, but they say you're COVID negative, but you can't stay here. You're full. You'll have to make accommodations elsewhere. Of course, you're already at the homeless shelter. Where else would you be going? So I end up spending the night near the Greyhound station outside in Winston-Salem, knowing I can buy a ticket to a bus that will take me onto the High Point, kind of coincidentally, High Point train station. From the High Point train station, they will take me to a train station in Burlington where Elon University is. Technically, I do spend a few more days, like 2 or 3, just kind of like I spend some money in a motel room, and I'm just kind of like, I think I'm about to enter Elon University, the only home I feel like I had left. I'm reflecting back on my college days and all the life that's happened since. But really, when I return to Elon University's campus, I go straight to the campus student health center. Before I get to the Greyhound station in downtown Winston-Salem, I am by a bus stop at Winston-Salem State University, which is just significant to me, and the fact that my mother graduated there in 2004, changing her LPN to earning a BS in nursing degree, and I actually did help her significantly, over significantly, with that earning that degree, and it's just a very transformative thing for me because my mother, who is not mentioned much in this experience, in this whole documentary, ends up going to Switzerland and all these other countries. Saudi Arabia is the first one because she's permanently terminated for stealing ICU crash cart meds to try to kill me in 2012. Hence the reason I leave North Carolina and go to West Virginia long ago. But basically, I'm in the High Point train station, which I've never been. I've never rode Amtrak in my home state. I'm used to riding the trains in Denver, which feel about 50 years old. They might be 10 years old. And here it's the opposite. The train is 50 years old, but feels and acts about 10 years old. It's really a two different worlds kind of thing. And I'm just kind of reflecting in this weird little time of being homeless for about 3 weeks. Of course, for a couple weeks, I was over at my friend Harold's, and I'm spending a lot of time on this time of me being homeless, the very beginning, because it just feels like I'm at this very transformative time where things don't seem to be extremely bad, but they should be working out. When I get to Burlington, I'm there for a couple days, and then I go to the Elon Health Center, and I go to the to see the doctor, and I'm seen on the Samaritan's Act. She says the words, "It's awful you're homeless. It's unusual that a graduate comes in like this. We'll see what we can do. We think that we can get you help. You've came to the right place." Those kind of messages are sent to me. She asked me to go outside and wait by the lawn until like 4 p.m. to wait to see if anyone calls her back for some local resources. And that's when the chief of campus police and some other security people come, and they tell me, because my father went to January 6th, I'm getting out of there. They don't care that I'm homeless. They don't care I have nowhere to go. They just immediately are insisting I leave. And I'm like, that is ridiculous. What about this doctor? And they're like, what about her? And it's just like, it is the most unjust thing ever, because now I'm 509 days homeless. You're learning about how I became homeless. I went to my university trying to usurp my family, knowing that they would already not be of any aid at all. And this is an extremely important moment, because what happens next is I am forced to go to the train station and immediately have a decision in that evening if I'm going to go to Raleigh or Charlotte. I've lived in both of these cities before, but it's been a long time, and I've already kind of been using this free time to kind of trying to warm up my network of North Carolina, which is, I last lived there over a decade ago. When I get to the train station, I make the decision to go to Charlotte. My brother, who's 3 years younger than me, who, when I was homeless, when my dad made me homeless in 2016, just drove away from me with me standing on the sidewalk in the winter. I tell him I need to have some medication sent to you. It's for HIV. It's very important. And he declines that. He says I can't have his address used. I can't pick it up. And then what I do next is I check into Super 8 in Charlotte, the cheapest motel room I can find. I'm there for 1 or 2 nights, and then I realize I have no more money. What am I going to do? I'm feeling very depressed. I'm very distraught from the whole experience at Elon. There's also Hurricane Ian on the way. I know from living in North Carolina, it's going to rain a lot. What am I going to do? I have to survive with nothing, mostly in the out of doors. I'm very depressed. I am suicidal. I check into Carolina Medical Place for suicide. I'm there for a while. While I'm there, I'm expecting at this point, I'm just going to be a homeless person in Charlotte and, with a brother that doesn't love me. But what happens at the hospital is they say, since you have an eviction court hearing in Denver, we can get you a Greyhound ticket. So the way I become homeless kind of ends with me boarding the bus at the Greyhound station in Charlotte, North Carolina. They send me over from the hospital to the Greyhound station. I have $1.66 in my pocket, and I'm going right back to the place where I left my apartment, my life there. I'm going back unexpectedly. The hospital paid for the Greyhound ticket, and I'm there for quite a long time, riding out the winter, homeless. It's horrifying, and this is how I become homeless. Before I end this video, I just want to do 2 things. One, I want to ask everybody, do you remember I just said I boarded the bus from Charlotte to Denver with $1.66? Can you imagine how that must feel? that would be pretty bad. And remember, I've already been kicked out of my university for something my father did and had chased away in a life-threatening condition by nunchucks. That would be two out of multiple other things I'm not even mentioning that were a threat to my life. Staying at the Greyhound station outside North Carolina was very, very scary. I want to secondly end this with, and the focus of this whole documentary project is really kind of on the relationship with my relationships. But for so many people who have never been homeless, the whole focus always, all times, no matter what, the only thing they care about is work. I'm showing you a picture of a house that is in Charlotte, North Carolina, and it's like within a 3-minute walk of Letty's Bar and Grill. I want to let you know that when I boarded the Amtrak from Burlington, where my university was, to Charlotte, I had a conversation with someone who worked at Letty's Bar and Grill, and they told me, do you remember I said I stayed at Super 8 for like 2 nights? The reason I stayed for 2 nights was the day after, got to Super 8 at night in Charlotte in the evening. I stayed at Super 8. The very next day, what I do is I actually walk to use the bus system in Charlotte, which I've never used. I get to Letty's Bar and Grill at the time that the person who worked there said to come in, and she said, just ask for a job. I am asked to come back like in an hour later. That's when I take this picture. I also am trying to demonstrate, I remember exactly what happened almost 500 days ago, homeless. And I remember taking this picture of this house and just being like, this is just a house. It is just a home, but it's good enough. It's perfect enough where me and someone that I care about, like, I would love to just for us to be here. Like, why not just have us start here? It was just another reflective moment. I ended up having the interview at Letty's Bar and Grill, and the person on the Amtrak it was like someone that helped. It would be someone that saw me in a very bad situation, didn't know me at all, and I'm going to get into the relationships with people that I've known since even before I was born, that have known my family and their response. That's what the next sections of this video is going to be. But I get to Letty's Bar and Grill based on the, kind of knowing I need work, knowing everything else is uncertain. But if I have work that grounds me and it helps propel me back into a home, I'm already in the motions at this point already, like less than 24 hours, give or take, about from, getting ejected from the place where I spent $166,000 to get educated. I'm trying to re-enter the workforce. What happens over at Letty's is the manager tells me that I'll have the position if the person who's washing dishes doesn't return back to work again. So it's kind of like a conditional if someone else doesn't do what they're supposed to do kind of job offer. I have ran into that before while homeless since then. And I also just want to demonstrate, I have a $166,000 degree from Yale University. I was a project director for West Virginia University. I did go #1 in the country for something in my first postgraduate position. More recently, I worked for the Dish Corporation 1 year and 1 day to earn a promotion to come out to Denver, which never really started in the right way. I was never trained due to the COVID pandemic. I also just went in this video by saying I was a dishwasher at that pizza restaurant way back at the beginning of the video when I explained I liked to work there. Overall, I did. I was working in the back washing dishes, but I was also with the rest of the staff a lot. It was a good work environment. I thought could be growth potential there. I just had to work another job to make ends meet. Working at the grocery store in Denver never really panned out because of the 11-week time frame to actually get hired in the red hot summer months. But I was already grounded in the position that I liked. I was doing everything I could beyond, I want you to know, I was trying to work with the Colorado Rental Assistance Program. I was working with other people, having them come in, stay with me, see if that would work out. I was supplementing my income. I was doing everything I could to avoid this from all happening. I end up within less than 30 days, I'm trying to get a job in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I'm homeless. Ended up going to the hospital and being slingshotted back to Denver. Now I'm in Denver for quite a long time. I do go to West Virginia. While I'm in West Virginia, I get kidnapped. I find out my father is sleeping with a 7-year-old boy. And then I get kidnapped, and then I walk back to the state, and I eventually make it back to Denver, where I am doing the whole documentary series. It's been a wild ride. It's time for it to be over. And now that I'm chronically homeless, or homeless for over 1 year, I'm 16 times more likely to die just for surviving. So that's kind of me in a nutshell, and how being homeless started. Oh, one last thing in the how I became homeless section of this documentary or this one video. So we've been looking at this one house for quite a while, and I just want to say in 2023, that was a year I was entirely homeless every second of every single day. I did go back and live with my father, but it was conditions you would not consider having a home. He's sleeping with a 7-year-old boy. He leaves me in a house with no water. It's deplorable. In 2023, and this experience that I just described happened in September of 2022. In 2023, I found more than 300 places to rest my head. Just let that sink in. And one more last thing. It's like once I get this on YouTube, it's there kind of working for me for a way. But I will say I worked for a promotion to schedule commercial traffic for Dish Company for world headquarters after working 1 year and 1 day in its call center. Right? So that promotion earned me $2 more an hour than working as a dishwasher in Denver. When I wanted to negotiate the salary, someone told me, if we don't accept the salary we're offering, we'll just hang up and call someone in Texas. It was just immediately like, in this post-Reagan millennial generation coming to 30s are supposed to be your highest earning years. 15% of my 30s has consisted of being homeless. And, I'm sorry this video might not be the perfect condition, but this tells you the story, and you have a lot to do with your homeless. It's like right now, like 3:47 a.m. I'm working around the clock, doing everything I can. I do have a job interview postponed now till Tuesday. Because I try to be the best, I want to show you this picture from just 2 nights ago, and it's where I'm actually forced to stay at the homeless shelter. And the homeless shelter, you're in there for dinner, and then you have to be there at a certain time, and then you have to stand outside no matter how cold it is for like another hour at least before you, I stood in 2 different lines before you can go back inside at the homeless shelter. I want to tell you just a brief update on like how things are going housing wise. I have 4 case managers at 4 different organizations, which for over a year they have had the responsibility of helping me find housing. They all cannot find housing yet. Then they all tell me there's nothing else I can be more on top of. I'm going to end this video with one of my last videos. I did create most of this documentary just a couple days ago, and really this is not the meat of the subject, but I know that this is going to be one of the highest, most popular videos already. I just have a strong feeling. I'm going to end this with my video at the homeless shelter after I completed the bulk of the documentary. Again, this is just kind of like how I became homeless, and just at the very end, a quick update and like how I'm doing, how my spirits are right now. And then I really, really, really encourage you to just check out the rest of all the series, because I know it's a lot, but you don't ever get this kind of perspective from anybody. This is very unusual. This is something that you should really pay attention to the rest of the documentary for. But this is my spirits when I get inside the homeless shelter. I'm crying because I'm lucky. I really am. You might let me starve to death. But Denver Rescue Mission won't. I might get stabbed here, but Denver Rescue Mission itself won't stab me. If they do, they won't. I'm lucky because I have the world's best ex-girlfriend, Ava Gillespie. Ava can't remember what your last name is right now, but you know what I'm talking about. Some of y'all do, and she does. She became principal of my home at that There's elementary school. Before that, we went and saw Fern Gully. I held her hand. Then my parents got divorced. My mom tried to kill me. My dad made me homeless. In 2016, choosing the wrong person to throw outside when it should have been my uncle. But even doing that itself would be wrong. I know the difference between right and wrong. And I know it's sleeping with a 7-year-old boy is something you should never. You should never have to confront the reality of your dad doing that. I know I have over 10,000 views on YouTube. We're pretty damn close to it. I know that every single video I put up should be another nail in his coffin because he chose to do that. Or WV Medicine helped him do it when that was the best they could come up with. My dad was not like that before, but he was like that after. surviving WV medicine. I won't starve to death. I don't have a place to sleep, and I have to find a third or fourth option. This is it. It's not a tent because I am the best. I've never done heroin. Some of you could just say, you know what? The fact that his mother tried to kill him over 10 years ago should have put him in a special class of people. We should always try to do our best for it. Maybe some of you will. You see, I'm sitting here waiting, wondering, will it be Steve Trevette and Jerry Pennington, parents that love me better than the ones I have, my birth certificate? So we're going to unite and do the right thing, because it's the right thing to do. And we're going to feel so much better when we do it. He can keep himself alive. He can't get himself out of homelessness, and I got to be ready for a job interview at 1 p.m. tomorrow, somewhere else in the city, and then just continue surviving wherever it is. I'm going to survive all the time. Eve, I miss you. I hope you get motivated and fired up to just say, I'm going to be the only person who's going to have an ex-boyfriend that was homeless for over 500 days from America's #1 best TV hometown. Sarah Stevens, you got some explaining to do, and so do you, Aunt Maddie, for your caring that I hadn't felt. What y'all do? I feel lucky. Like Britney Spears. I'm warm, and I won't starve to death, because basically, the greatest country in the world still cares about me, even if you don't right now. But you should. You always should. Caring. It's going to be a concept. My next video, it's going to be a long one. I've made a movie. Homework. And Judy Loudermilk. Get ready. You should survive. So should you, Michelle and Todd Tribe. Get on. They might keep the lights on. This is part of being homeless. There's nothing comfortable ever about being homeless. I knew the second I became homeless this time, none of this was my fault. You know, technically I couldn't keep my apartment. Did everything in my human power to keep it. But more of that will be in the movie. But I knew I was at a 48% risk, 48% chance of going homeless just for being who I am. Okay. And then my parents stacked a 22% higher likelihood on top of that, when they thought getting divorced would be the best thing, and it never was. It never will be. I will never have to get over it, thinking it was. I've already became resolved to that. You get married. This is what happens to your kids: you get divorced. And this video is going to be on there forever. I'll be telling people 10, 20 years from now about this.